The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. Success in business requires more than just hard work. It demands a holistic approach that integrates both personal well-being and an organization's performance, says Klaus Kleinfeld in his new book, Leading to Thrive. It's a book by the former CEO of both Siemens and Alcoa, who, through personal experience, determined that a hard-driven approach to business on its own can be a recipe for failure. In the book, Kleinfeld focuses on understanding your inner game rather than being solely focused on the outer game. And he says when you do so, you recognize the importance of managing physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy as foundational if you want to have sustained success in both business and life. By doing so, he says, you unlock your inner strength, create resilience that opens you to finding your purpose. That leads to increased inner strength, which unlocks success in whatever outer game you choose to engage. And in doing so, he continues, this allows you to define a winning strategy, have flawless execution, achieve high performance, and also have effective board and stakeholder management. I invited Klaus Kleinfeld, the author of Leading to Thrive, to join me for a conversation that matters about finding inner peace and excelling as a leader. Mr. Kleinfeld, welcome.
Hello, Stuart. Pleasure being on your show.
I really liked your book. It's the first book that I read in a number of years where I went, I think you really are focused on what is essential to being a leader. I remember when I first read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it talks about integrity and knowing who you are. What made you, in your own experience, as you started to put this book together, say, yep, that's the place that we have to start, not just the book, but in our lives?
Lots of things, this doesn't come as one chunk that falls on your head one day, this comes to a bunch of experiences. I'm as you know, a practitioner, so all the things that I say in there, I tried out. So let's start to chop the elephant, So the first thing is I was a big fan of effectiveness and getting stuff done, because as a leader, it's all about performance. So performance was the thing that mattered, being brought up in Germany, it's all about discipline, you plow through, you do it. So I was a fan of time management, rigid time management, until I realized one day that plowing through and hitting your energy reserves, and basically not having enough energy is not the best of all methods. I realized that it's all about energy. And when you are a leader particularly, you have to be energized yourself to energize others to make them do what you want them to do, So that was one fundamental understanding. Maybe I start with that.
Did you wind up in your own career experiencing missteps as a result of not being focused on your own inner game?
Well, I've had these challenges at an early time. I would not have called that the inner game, but my family was refugees from East Germany. My father died when I was very young, and I was 10 years old, and I was thrown into real life and also making some money for the family at a very early point in time. So when those things happen around you, you get challenged, and you have to also find out who you are, what you want to do, and what you're good at, those challenges have been real throughout all of my life. At the same time, I always realized that there's only one life, So somehow that was clear to me from relatively early on, and I never believed in this, hey, here's work and there's life and work-life balance. I thought it's all one, and I lived by the principle I either love it, and change it, or I leave it, and if I realized that I couldn't change it, I would go to leave it, So that's a principle that I've always followed.
It requires a fair bit of courage. Not everybody feels confident that they can leave one endeavor and that the other will magically appear. What gave you that inner confidence that you could walk away from one thing if it wasn't working?
That is a very good question, and I don't think I know the full answer until today, but I do reflect on I did make these decisions already at a very, very early age on. And I think my recollection was when you're confronted with death around you, you realize there is an end to this life. It's not like, oh, you do this, you do it for a little while, and then you can do something else. You realize time is ending at a certain point in time. So for me, it was essential, that I do with my life, what I feel has purpose, what I feel that it's valuable, and so I think that question was on my mind all the time, and in a way also the understanding, rather than wasting it here and getting potentially mistreated or not valued, I'd rather find my path somewhere else. And I had the confidence, partially also through, I'm a strong believer, I have to say, it's partially through the strength that comes from believing that I will be guided to find the right path. And that's what happened.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you. Do you think that sense of being guided came through some, inner faith? I don't know whether or not it was from a spiritual or a religious background, but this faith that there is maybe a higher calling for you.
I wouldn't call it a higher calling. It comes more from that there is a source that of wisdom, of energy, that provides guidance to you. And yes, I am a strong believer, and that really came when you lose your father and your life gets thrown around at that time. You ask yourself, why did it happen to me? What happened? Why did it happen? Why me? And you suddenly find strength in the belief in a higher being, So, and you can call it whatever you want. I mean, I wish to no one that you will be thrown into dark times, but I can only tell you, and I also say it in the book. I mean, it will help you very strongly to get through dark times, and in a way it's aligning yourself with your own values in a very strong way. I mean, purpose, I always say, is like what a laser does to light. It focuses you around something, and that's what purpose does to energy.
Well, I can appreciate that. I lost my mother when I was very young, and I remember asking myself in the days after she left, well, if all you do is die, what's the point of anything? And it took me a while of personal searching, and I note that you refer to Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, to come across his book, which helped me. You quote quite a number of philosophers. Do you believe that it's important for people especially who aspire to leadership positions, that they study the works of philosophers because it can help them find their own inner meaning?
At that point in time, I was more referring to my own journey, because this concept of purpose is so important for life. I think you seem to have gone through a similar experience yourself. You ask yourself, what am I here for? What do I want? Who am I? So, and I struggled with this concept. I don't think I have fully solved it until today. So when I decided to write a book about it, I said, well, let me put in there the different paths that society has come up with, because in reality, purpose has been a common theme of mankind as long as it exists. So it's not that we have the first discussion around this. A lot of very smart people have thought about it, and societies have been formed around certain purposes. Religions have been formed around this. So I thought, I don't have the answer to it. I can offer, I call it a ride through space and time, so I offer different perspectives. And it doesn't mean that you have to just take one. I also think that you can basically take the best out of whatever you think suits you. But I would highly recommend take one, so instead of dabbling and avoiding this question, don't avoid it, go for it, and it doesn't, if always keep in mind, if you feel that it's not fitting, you can change it. That's the beauty here. Same, by the way, with spirituality and belief. If you feel that this is not suiting you, okay, fine. You don't have to stick with it. You have a free choice.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you.
One of the things that I find quite interesting in reading your book and thinking about the role of purpose as a leader, when you understand what your purpose is, and this is my interpretation of your works, it allows you then to define what your values are. And once you have those values, it's much easier for you then to put forward a position to your team that says, these are the things we stand for, and these are the things that we'll work together on achieving.
100% agree. 100% agree. And that goes back to the question of, vision for a company, and if there is a greater good that the company serves, you instill a purpose in the people, and then they feel that it's not kind of going into the office at 8 o'clock in the morning and leaving at 5, actually you do something very, very valuable for mankind, and I think that is important in a company, and you see it today, interestingly, more important than it ever was for the young generation to choose a job. That's what I mean. So, and the good thing is there's a war on talent. The best people are looking for this, and that's why the old kind of industrial model where you had repetitive work and where you could actually renege on purpose and say everybody comes in, you twist this thing, you pull this lever, and you're exchangeable. Our society today has been moving and continues to move into a direction where the war on talent will continue to be around. So therefore you have to motivate people, and you fight for the best.
So understanding, where your values are then allows you then to say, I'm going to move forward with integrity. There's a wonderful saying by one of the founders of DDB, the advertising agency. He said, a bunch of people run around talking about values, but your values really only present themselves when you're willing to pay a price for them. And if you are willing to pay that price, how important is that as a leader to demonstrate to your team really where the line is?
Super important, super important. I have a chapter on the book about, one of the most difficult things that I've seen people struggle with, if you have a leader in your company, who is a top performer, but you somehow realize that it's a person who kicks down and kisses up, and does not follow, cuts corners, and does not follow necessarily the values that you want the companies to stand for. However, he or she is the best performer, and the performance impacts also your paycheck in a very positive way. So now you are in this, what some people consider a dilemma, do I fire the person to get the culture going and basically not just do sweet talk, but have my actions show what I've been saying, or do I close my eyes, look the other way, and let the person go? My clear recommendation is get the person out and in a very public way, make it visible to the employees that you are not tolerating. No performance justifies a breakage of values, period.
As you're saying that, I'm reminded of Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, where he talks about make sure you have the right people on the bus in the right seats. And if you don't, the rest of the team starts to wonder about you as a leader.
Yes, for right reasons, though. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, how important is it that you are able to demonstrate all of that, especially in a climate where talented people have choices and they will choose the team that they want to be a part of, and you have to be demonstrating that you align with their values, not necessarily the other way around?
Well, it's a self-selection in a way, so I don't think that you should artificially choose values that are not the values that help the performance of the company. I think this has to be aligned, and it's not that everybody follows the same ideas. And just keep in mind, I mean, the values are a broad concept, so when you have values, you can still apply them to a ton of different things. So I think that the overlap in terms of what values do you consider are values that drive performance and attract people, that set of values is a set that's not that difficult to use. I've never run into this situation, to be honest. I've never had the feeling that I had to think about not pursuing certain values to not get great people. I think the opposite was rather the case, where I felt that if I don't make clear, these are my values, this is what we stand for, that was much more important.
The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you.
I sense that you're quite a tennis fan because I note that you make reference to Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer, Serena Williams, and so on. And you talk about adopting a champion's mindset, but also their dedication to taking care of their body. Let's talk a little bit about a champion's mindset. What does that look like?
Well, it's not really the champion's mindset. Let me get this thing away here. So it's not about the champion's mindset. It's more about they learned in a very, very early way, early phase, that we had a phase where all these great guys like Agassi, you may remember, we're old enough to remember Agassi. Agassi was a star. He shot up. He was fantastic. And then he burned out. Boom, crashed. And then he came back. So what happened? And when you look into the tennis side, you see that the top players are much older than they used to be. Whereas in business world, they burn out faster. So that's what I found intriguing. And I realized that what they are doing is they are not just looking at their body. They've done that for a long time. But they realize that on the court, they show up with their whole self. And that means it's the body, it's the emotional side, it's the mental side, and it's the spiritual side. And all of this together, forms their complete capabilities of having energy, preserving energy, and it comes through in the most interesting fashion today when you look at what they do during the serves. The Tennis Association allows 20 seconds between serves. Everyone has their own kind of power routine where they rehearse in their mind, reset themselves, re-energize, and then they are ready for the next serve, and the past is in the past.
Well, I think that is part of a champion's mindset, to be able to go, okay, this is done. Nothing I can do about it. I'm now resetting and focusing. And you talk about the need to find your own reset. It is vitally important, isn't it?
It is important, but that's just one aspect of the recharging. One thing also, I mean, when you go through the four energy sources, I mean, physical is relatively well understood by most people these days, So, but then when you come to the emotional side, people are awed very often when I tell them that the emotions, they are in charge of their own emotion. Nobody can impose an emotion on you. The emotion is created inside of you. That some outside forces make you think of that. And a tennis player has that situation that another player tries to provoke them. So now the question is, are they capable of basically staying calm, ignoring that, and not having energy to be drained from that? Mental energy is a lot about focus. What do you focus on? Do you focus on the lost balls, or do you focus on those ones that went in? And do you focus on opportunities, or do you focus on challenges in businesses? Then on the spiritual side is, how do you feel when you feel this job makes me aligned with my value? I get to my life's purpose, compared to, it's a job that pays well, and I somehow have to count the days until I retire, or find a better job.
As you were describing about, how do I respond to this and that, I thought about that great moment in Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, where he says, you can't control what happens to you, but what you can control, the only thing that you actually have any control over, is how you choose to respond. I struggle with that one quite a bit.
Well, first of all, it's natural because I think that that's something that the School of Life, they should teach us in kindergarten already. I think it would make it a lot easier. One simple way, is that you learn about the strength of breathing. Breathing is one of those things that comes natural to us. Otherwise, we will be dead. But it controls so many things. So one recommendation that I have is that you basically, number one, distract yourself by not necessarily listening to this, not letting this come into yourself. So not digesting it intellectual, just looking at it. This is an outside view. This has nothing to do with me. And you're at the same time controlling your breathing, and just focusing on your breathing in, breathing out. You can do that in any situation. Nobody will actually notice that. And you will see the wonder of breath getting you into a calm state. If you have a watch that measures your heart rate, you will see that you can really bring your heart rate down, even though somebody is throwing crap at you. It's actually not that difficult, really not that difficult. You just have to learn that you defocus your mind instead of listening to the other side, who has nothing better to do than to provoke you. You now listen into your body and you control your breath, and you bring it in, bring it out like a wave going through your body, and you feel great. I guarantee you. Money back guarantee.
Well, because we can't go into your entire book and we're going to start to run out of time, one point that I value is that you're not just saying, okay, well, if I can conceive it, I can achieve it. You also say, no, you have to work. You actually have to put in the work. And it's about finding that right balance in your own life. I like the fact that you go, let's take this idea of work-life balance and figure out what that means to you rather than some preordained formula from outside.
100% agree. It's the work-life balance is an industrial concept. I think in the pre-industrial world, when we were hunters and gatherers, look, we had to go out and hunt to live. So it was never. I don't think they ever saw it as, hey, there's work and there's life. So I think it was all connected, all one. So, and I think we are in the post-industrial world. I strongly believe that. So we should throw off these limitations and say, how do we best integrate this? And it's very well doable. One thing, I think one misconception is very often that people think the same amount of time that you put into something is needed to refresh. That is not the case. There are lots of capabilities, lots of routines, how you can very quickly refresh, like the 20-second routine between the balls and tennis. There's a lot of these tricks, like the breathing, like some neuro-linguistic programming stuff, that all kind of top high-performing teams are using. So a lot of things not that difficult to learn. I would highly recommend that, and that's basically tricking the system.
Well, Mr. Klaus Kleinfeld, thank you for taking the time today to give us a glimpse into this remarkable book that you've written, one of the best that I've read in years, Leading to Thrive. I thank you very much for your time and also for putting your thoughts to paper and publishing that book so that we can all enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Stuart.